They say that attitude is everything. Do you treat it that way? What's going on, guys? DrSean here. Welcome to the Winner Circle. I'm the author of The Search for Wellness. If you're new here, I'm so glad to have you. And if you're returning and you found value to come on back, welcome back to the Winner Circle. It's where we discuss how to develop your power of choice or your mindset. We like talking about developing mindsets here because when we develop our mindsets, we show improvements in every aspect of life there is. Our health improves, our relationships improve, our finances improve, even our emotional health improves. And so that's the kind of discussion we like to have here. So welcome back. Back to the question we were asking. Do you treat attitude like it's everything? Back when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, we talked about intellect a lot. And we talked about IQs, and we were talking about how smart people were, how well people did on their grades. It was like that was the gateway to everything good in life that there was. We had to take entrance examinations to get into certain schools, and just to really move forward in life, there was no way you could do it without proving that you were smart enough. But then later on, in I think around the 90s, Daniel Goleman came out with his book and his new ideas, EQ, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, where we were all focusing on our intelligence quotient. And it made a big difference. It made a lot of points and discussed how a lot of people that do really, really well, they tend to be gifted or practiced emotionally. They understand their own feelings. They understand and can identify with the feelings of others. So emotional health and our attitude means a whole lot. I don't know if it's everything, but it sure is very important. Now, imagine you have a couple of people. Person A, let's say they have average intelligence, but they're really, really good with people. They tend to enjoy themselves. They enjoy their lives quite well. But if you have average emotional intelligence, or you're average with people, but you're really smart, well, a lot of times people like that, nobody really wants to hang out with them. And none of us lives on an island or works on an island. We are all working and living amongst each other. Now, I don't want to just focus on how the world perceives us when I talk about emotional intelligence and emotional quotient and emotional life, our emotional life. I really want to talk about how we feel about ourselves when we're going about our days, how we are evaluating the options that are in front of us, how we are evaluating ourselves, if we feel that we are worth what we are being offered, if we feel like we are worth the dreams that we even have for ourselves, if we feel like we're worth the kind of health that we want, if we feel like we're worth the kind of people that we want in our lives. Really, this has a lot to do with our attitude. Now, somebody might be listening to this and saying, well, the attitude we have is the attitude we have, and we can't change that. But I beg to differ, and so that's why I wanted to talk about this. I've seen people have attitudinal changes, if you will, and so I wanted to suggest some ideas. You might say, well, when has anybody ever changed their attitude meaningfully? People really haven't changed much from the age of 5, and we have seen some studies that suggest that. However, have you ever seen somebody who had a crisis in life, maybe a near-death experience? Maybe they think they're going to die. Maybe they're actually going to die. And they decide that, you know what, all these petty things, they just don't matter anymore. And they really start focusing on the things that seem to matter more. So basically what I'm suggesting is that if we can have a change in our experience or a change in our perspective, or if somebody can share a perspective with us, well, then we can certainly change our attitude. And the first step I want to recommend is that we decide to change our attitude. Just make a choice. Now, why would somebody do that? Well, maybe a person decides that they want to change their attitude because they want a different relationship with life. The people that are in their life, maybe they have people that they wish they could talk to. Maybe they have people in their family or people that they work with. Maybe they want to have a different relationship with life. So that would be an impetus and a reason to change our attitude. And imagine we could just decide, okay? And maybe that's the biggest discussion to have. If I could convince you, if I could inspire you that we can change our attitude, we can actually make a choice that, you know what, I kicked my toe on the bed, ouch, that hurt so badly. That was a moment for me. I am not going to carry that into work and throughout the rest of the day. That's not the kind of day I'm going to have or the kind of life I'm going to have. I'm going to leave it for this particular moment. We can change our attitude and make that adjustment just by making a decision. The fact of the matter is that if we don't decide that we're going to change our attitude, well, then what we are deciding is that we are going to be triggered by whatever happens throughout the day. And our day and our life, our whole health is going to be a function of whoever comes in front of us, whatever is going on, and we are deciding in that regard to become a victim. Okay, we're deciding to be reactive as opposed to being proactive. We don't want to set ourselves up so that we can be triggered by whatever happens out there. So my first recommendation, and I believe the most important aspect to this, is to make a choice. Decide that, you know what, I'm going to have an attitude A or an attitude B, or I'm going to be happy today. How empowering is that, to decide early what kind of attitude I'm going to carry into the day? So that's the first step I'm going to recommend, is to make a decision. And I have done this multiple times personally, and I would not recommend doing something I haven't actually done. The second is I would exercise empathy. Now, we talk about empathy a lot. We hear it more and more all the time. But there are different aspects to empathy that I just want to talk about, because many times when somebody says empathy, what we hear is sympathy, and they're not quite the same. When we talk about being sympathetic to somebody, what we are really talking about is trying to understand them from the perspective of our own shoes. But empathy is trying to understand a person by really listening to them, sharing their emotional space as best as possible, sharing their shoes, really, to understand who they are. It does mean being a little bit more vulnerable, significantly perhaps more emotionally vulnerable, to feel another person's pain. There are some steps to this, and hopefully we can be sincere, but some of the steps include establishing a personal bond, showing some concern, and then showing a shared concern, not just personal concern, then a shared concern. And then number 3 is understanding a person's pain, really listening to understand what that pain is. And then the 4th aspect to this is validating that person's pain. It's only then that we can really grow a relationship the way we really want to. So exercise empathy, and those are the approaches and the, let's say, the anatomy of empathy and the steps of empathy, if you're really, really, really interested. And I've done a video on this previously. You can look that up on the components of empathy. Exercise empathy, and that will certainly help you to change your attitude. Because once we understand a person from where they are, because we have established a bond with them, we've shared their emotional space, well, then we have, in a sense, given ourselves a chance to experience an attitude change once we really understand where a person is coming from. And then finally, I would suggest that we can change our attitude by having more gratitude. That sounds cliche, but it's not that hard. Really, what I'm talking about is saying thank you, being thankful. Imagine if we can say thank you and really sincerely thank people for the presence they have in our lives, for the small things they do to make our lives better, and just for being there. If we're not saying thank you all day long, well then all day long we are missing opportunities to change our attitude. Not just change our attitude, but to achieve the kind of attitude that we want for ourselves and to maintain a certain attitude that we want for ourselves. So those are the 3 things that I want to recommend, and I hope that I have shared with you the reasons why I think it would be great for us to have the kind of attitude that we want. The first is to decide that, hey, you know what? I am going to have attitude A because that is really what's going to give me the most empowerment today. I'm not going to be a trigger for everybody. Okay, I'm not going to be in reactive mode. I'm going to choose my attitude. And the second is to exercise empathy. And then the third is to exercise gratitude. I hope that keeps you winning today. And if you found this helpful, if there was something that you think resounds with you and resonates with people that you know, or if there's a particular person, share this video with them. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you won't miss out on other frequent tools and tips on discovering your power of choice. Thanks again for joining, and keep winning. Take care, guys.